Hello guys, I'm going to do a Hobbit review now, which is always good. A lot of people asked for this, so I was like, should I do it? People were like, yes. So here we go. This is my... Firstly, before we start, fucking spoilers everywhere. If you haven't watched this and you want to be kept spoiler free, please don't watch this video. Really, just press stop. Well, rate, comment, subscribe first. And then click off the video, because it's fucking... I'm not good. I can't do I could never do a non-spoiler review of a movie. It's like, it's just impossible, because so much is kind of spoiler. Anyway, this is going to be spoilers. So first, I want to tell you a bit about... I went to see it with my little brother. Not so much little brother, he's my younger brother. And he has a lot more invested into the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. You know, he's read the books and all that stuff. I can barely remember the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and the only thing I knew about this movie was the riddle scene, which was very good. So going in, I was almost completely blind, whereas most people weren't. And the biggest thing I saw about this was the running time, which was 200 minutes, which is what's that, 3 hours 20, which is, it's got to be the longest movie I've ever watched. So we go in there, and you know it's going to be a long movie, and it's going to take a lot to keep us, you know, not restless. Thankfully, the movie worked at such a pace that it didn't feel like 3 hours 20, even though it felt like we'd been there for a long time. So, the movie starts out, the first scene with Bilbo and Gandalf, and Gandalf wants Bilbo to go on an adventure, and all of the fucking dwarfs just raid the house of food, have a bit of a party, and this introduces us to Bilbo as a very uptight, very, you know, he just wants to stay at home. Why are these people around? It really does paint him as the character who, you know, would never go on an adventure. You know, the kind of guy who doesn't like change or anything like that. And it's a really funny, charming little scene with all of the dwarves. As I like to fucking name them. There's Gimli, Gimli's brother, Gimli, and Gimli, because they're all the same fucking character. No, some of them do have discerning characters, like the two that looked normal, that looked like teenagers. I can't remember their names. You cannot fault me for not knowing their names, because I don't think anyone could name all of those unless they were serious fans. So the only one I remember is Thorin Oakenshield, who was the leader, the king. And I thought they did a great job of painting him as a really how do I say this? Firstly, sympathetic, really sympathetic, while at the same time being quite a hard-nosed, you know, a hard king who's proud and all of this. Those two are very hard to get together, and we felt compassion for him, just like Bilbo did. So we have that first scene. We have all the dwarves, and it's really light-hearted, really light-hearted. We're all like, ha, Bilbo doesn't want these people in his house. This is really nice. And they ask him to sign the contract that says he's going to go with them, and he's like, I can't do this. He goes to bed, wakes up, and he walks around, and I just love how they do it. It's just like, it's completely empty, and he's just walking around. It's like, oh. And at that point, you think, he's got two options. He could stay at home and, you know, just live his life, or he could take that contract and run after them. And he does it, of course, because we wouldn't have a movie else. And I loved that bit. It was just so... It's so... The story is just told so well. And he runs after them, and, you know, They're going off on an adventure. And almost immediately we get to some kind of action, which I thought was great. There was, as much as it's a very long movie, there's not much in the way of dragging, other than when they get to the Elven town, which I can't remember the name of, Rivendell I think it's called, or something like that. Please, if I get the names of stuff wrong, just don't be like that to me. I'm just yeah. So that's the only bit that dragged really. So Bilbo goes after them, and boom, it's all like, we found what was it? Trolls? Was it? I think it was trolls or ogres. It was trolls who stole ponies, and we first see Bilbo becoming a very reluctant savior. But he's he's like, we can't let these ponies die. So against all of his how do we say, just the way he is, he risks his own life against these massive ogres to try and free them. And of course, it doesn't work out too well. He gets caught. He gets the rest of them caught, and it's just great. I love that. Gandalf decided to fuck off for, I can't remember why. Gandalf goes off so fucking often. It's like, I actually really like the character of Gandalf in this movie. He's not as how do I say? He's not as light-hearted as he is in The Lord of the Rings. Not that he was a very light-hearted guy, but you can tell he's a very different character, even though he's the same character. Which I thought was great. I was like, ooh, this is kind of different. He's not just Gandalf. He's Gandalf of 60 years ago. Someone who's not had this adventure and all that stuff. So after they defeat the trolls, which is always a good scene, there's a lot of tension and stuff. This movie decides to go for a action followed by more action, which really works well, because we feel as the audience as if we're Bilbo. We feel as if we've been thrust into this world, into this adventure, and it's not going to stop. And even sitting there, like by the end of the movie, I was like, man, that felt like an adventure. It really did. So they defeat the trolls, and in doing so, they attract the attention of orcs, who incidentally have beef with the Dwarf King, Thorin. So they get chased, and oh no! Before I go into that, we have I think a bit of filler, but it was kind of there's this brown wizard, I can't remember, Radagast the Brown, who's a nature wizard, I guess, and we have a cut off to him for some reason. I don't know why. It's like Bilbo's talking to what's his name, Gandalf, and he's like, "Hey, is there any more wizards?" And he's like, "Yes, and there was Radagast the Brown." It was like, and we're just like, "Oh, we're gonna look at this." And Radagast's just walking around, and he's like, "Oh no, this mushroom doesn't look too good. Oh no, this hedgehog is looking really bad." And he takes the hedgehog back to his house, and he's like, "Eat this," and the hedgehog's like, "I can't do it." He's like, "No," he's trying to somehow get the hedgehog to take in this potion or whatever it is. He won't. Then he gets this stuff and blows it all over him. He's like, "It's not working." And this guy is in this movie for, I don't know, 20 minutes tops, and then he's never seen again. And he doesn't do anything except for act as a decoy to the orcs, and even that he doesn't do well, because they still fucking just decide to say, "Hey, Radagast, bro, we're leaving you. We're gonna go try and kill the orc, the Dwarf King." So this is all fantastic. And after the dirty chase with the orcs And the dwarves, we find them just thrust upon the elven village, which is the village, the big city of elves, which leads us to the guy who played Agent Smith in The Matrix, and also leads us to this movie grinding to a screeching halt with, must have been a good half hour. This is the only problem I had with this movie. But it did need to slow down, but this screeched to a halt, which is not really that good a thing. We had Saruman the White, and the woman who I can't remember her name, just some weird thing. I really can't remember her. And Agent Smith, might as well have had Neo there. And they're all talking, and it's all like, so there's a necromancer, and it's like, there can't be a necromancer. And he's like, well, there is. And he's like, give me proof. And he's like, here's a sword that came from this guy who was locked in a tomb that was sealed magic. It's like, that's not really proof. And he's like, it kind of seems like it. It's like, that could have come from him. And he was like, no. And it's just such back and forth, and I have no idea how Saruman's just like, this doesn't work. And pretty much they're like, you're not going on this expedition. And Gandalf's like, come on, we can go on this expedition. And they're like, no. He's like, but come on. And thankfully the dwarves already left already. And they had this really weird, stupid plot point, which took 10 minutes. They're like, here is this piece of paper, and it's got these runes that you can only read on the moon of the same day that it was written. But thankfully, luck is on your side, because it's 1 in 30 days that the moon's at the same crescent point, and now we can read the runes, and it just says something about a keyhole, and it's just like, that's great! Why didn't we just fucking... It's just so much that we didn't need explaining. It was so much exposition, and the movie really did grind to a halt. Although I did like the scene of the dwarves just being all like, it's all green with their food. And it's just like they got lettuce and cress and shit like that, and they're like, where's the meat? And it's just like, this is funny. And then they go up into the mountains, and we have a stupidest. They're up in the mountains, and the mountains get up and start throwing shit at each other. This is actually the point where I was like, really? And I didn't know the motivation between the fucking mountains and throwing shit at each other. Do they do this every time anyone walks on them? I don't know. Thankfully, it was over in 5 minutes. That bit really kind of bothered me. But it wasn't too much of a problem. You know, it was just, it was a good action scene. But it went a bit too slow, went on a bit too long, but whatever. They make it into this cave, and they're talking, and Bilbo decides he wants to fuck off. You know, he's heard from Thorin that, you know, he's not good enough to be with them. He's not an adventurer. He's slowing them down, and he decides to leave. And before he can get out, his sword glows blue, which means that orcs or something are around, and they trapdoor opens in the cave that they're in, and they get shoved into a goblin society in which they're being taken to the king. And this bit was so tonally different. The tone was, it went from being super serious with the orcs and their snarling massive wolves and imminent death to being kind of a light-hearted, these goblins are going to do bad things to you, but you never feel any real threat. The Goblin King's this fat, well-spoken thing who just... all of them just look so silly, I guess. And having a really fat goblin who's really well-spoken, you know, it's such a... what's that word? Such a contrast that it's comical. And that's what that part of the movie is. When when they've gotten captured and when they're fighting, which is kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean esque fighting scene. I mean, fuck, if you, I'd love to watch back the scene where they're fighting and it's all kind of like a swashbuckling pirate thing. I'd love to put the Pirates of the Caribbean music on it, just in the background, and see how it looks. It'll be, seriously, just it's so tonally different, and I think it's a good change of pace, to be honest. Because if you have serious fight, serious fight, serious fight, serious fight, one after the other, with only the tiny little bits in between, it's kind of, yeah. And while they're having their bullshit happening, Bilbo's fell into this cave, and he meets Gollum, our good old Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings. And when I saw him, my face lit up. I was like, yes, this is awesome. And the riddle scene, in which Bilbo and Gollum are talking, it's just, it's just great. It slows it down. You know, there's no more fast-paced attacking and stuff. Yet you feel so much tension in it, because you really don't know what's going to happen. Gollum looks like he's really dangerous, and you don't really know what's going to happen. And seeing the One Ring is just, it's like fan service as well. It's kind of interesting that Bilbo just randomly picked it up. It's just like, oh, I found the ring. Found the One Ring, guys. It's, yeah. So the riddle scene was done really well. How do I say this? It's what was it? It was the final question of the riddle. It was like, what's in my pocket? It's the best. It's the best riddle ever. And my God, I just loved it. And the guy who plays Gollum and the way they've written him and the way they do the voice, I could never imagine it done any different. You know, it's like when you see some characters, like no one could ever be the Terminator except for Arnold Schwarzenegger. No one could ever be Dr. Gregory House except for Hugh Laurie. The guy who does the voice for Gollum and the movements and all that, it just could never be any different, could it? So once Bilbo puts on the ring and escapes, I think we find ourselves at the climax, which is the fight between the orcs and the evil orc lord, who actually is awesome. The white guy, I can't remember his name. He's the Defiler or something like that. How do I say this? It's a strange final scene because Thorin gets his ass kicked really hard, and it's just Bilbo summoning that courage to fight something that he knows he can't beat. You know, these guys with snarling beasts, the biggest, evilest orc, the strongest orc, who's already just pretty much kicked the crap out of the Dwarf King. I can't remember his name. Thorin. And you feel good. You feel great. You feel like you've gone on that adventure. You feel like you have achieved something, and you feel proud of Bilbo that he's done this. And of course, Bilbo knocks the Orc King on his ass and buys a bit of time for everyone to escape. And they get carried off by the eagles, which are complete dickheads, by the way. The eagles are just like, Carl, leaves them on top of a rock, and it's like, oh, how are we going to get down? Seriously, they're like, couldn't you drop us off at fucking the Lonely Mountain? I've always thought those eagles, especially like the one in Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, they're kind of like Deus Ex Machina. It's like, oh, bad things are happening, oh, like, eagles. But yeah, I can't really say much more than that. Really good movie, really good. How do I say this? I was kind of just like, this movie is too long. It could have done with being like 2.5 hours. That's it. That's still a long movie. Still the 50 minutes on top of that. Oof. Maybe they could have cut some Rivendell, but I don't even know. I don't even think you could, because you need to slow it down at some point. Because it would just be fight after fight after fight after fight, which it almost is, you know. It almost is fight after fight after fight after action scene after action scene. There's not much in the middle of it. So it's a really heavy movie, really heavy. I definitely don't think, even though it's a kid's story, I mean this was definitely, you know, a children's story. You can tell just by the way it is. I don't think kids are gonna enjoy it. I don't think they have the attention span, and it's kind of dark. It's very deep. It's you know, it's all these things. It's just too grand an adventure for a kid. I'm quite sure I wouldn't have enjoyed watching this as like 9, 8 years old, but maybe I would have. I don't know. It's just too long. It really is. The effects for the dragon, what's his name? It's Small. Are really good. I loved the end with the treasure trove, and you just see his eye and it opens and it's just like, oh shit. Because I've always thought the best movies series are the ones where throughout the entire movie you're fighting this evil, in which we did in this movie. We were fighting against the Orc King. We were fighting against him, and you know, he's almost defeated. The battle is won. Yes, we can do this. And then at the end of the movie you think, oh shit, I forgot this wasn't even the start of it. You know, we have Small, who's gonna fucking, you know, he destroyed an entire kingdom of dwarves alone. Just all of them at once. And I fucking love it. It's great. It's like, oh my shit. And yeah, it's just good. It's just a really good movie. It's a real adventure. You know, I felt like I was sat back, and at the end I was like, wow. It's an adventure. It really is. You feel like you've been on it with Bilbo, and you really do. You feel that you are Bilbo. Like in the Lord of the Rings, I never felt, you know, I felt it was like a kind of story, you know, we've all gone, blah blah, Frodo, and all. I never kind of felt that kind of connection with Frodo, you know. You feel a lot more like you are Bilbo, you know. You like to stay at home. You like not to be disturbed too much. You don't want to be going off on a massive adventure. You just want to be nice and comfy and just stay at home. But he's thrust into this adventure, and you know, we go with him, and we feel proud for him. We get scared for him, and all of these things. And I think that's great character development. I really do. Great writing. So yeah, I'm gonna leave this here. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hope I haven't left too much out. I hope I haven't spoiled too much, and I hope I haven't rambled too much. Hope you enjoy it. Goodbye.